Aside from Spencer Strider going down with injury, we've gotten a better look at this Braves team. And Alex, I want to ask you, what is really the biggest takeaway so far? Now we're 11 games in. We just had our first real signs of struggles against the New York Mets. Obviously, win-ins didn't look good, but we don't want to talk about Spencer Strider replacements. What's the biggest takeaway so far for you?
I'm going to stick with good things. And I did a blog about it. Go check it out, sportstalkatl.com. I've talked to you about it. I've said it on the show. I'm going to continue to talk about it until it's no longer true. And that's the big questions coming into the season have all been answered very early. 2 weeks into the season, we already have answered on Jarred Kelenic. He's obviously going to regress. He's not going to hit 400 this whole season. He's a power hitter, and we haven't seen much power, to be quite frank, just yet. Marcell Ozuna maybe the hottest hitter in baseball right now. He's second in the league in homers, and he's played like 2 less games at least than the leader. Orlando Arcia has continued his first half of last year. I think those three right there, and you could throw Ronaldo Lopez in there as well. He might be a little bit different of a case because, over the course of a season, how is he going to hold up? But those three hitters have answered questions that we all had. Like, those are the three guys we're all kind of like, if we're going to have weaknesses on the team, it's going to be those three guys.
Yeah, I mean, it is 11 games, so I'm still going to temper expectations the same way that I temper my expectations for Ronald Acuna struggling. I'm not going to sit here and say Jarred Kelenic's going to be a stud or even the everyday starter. I mean, we could still get to a point where Adam Duvall's the starter, but so far, so good. I mean, these are encouraging signs. You got a guy that's still working with Kevin Seitzer and making adjustments, and the fact that he started out this hot, but he started out this hot last year, went through some struggles, kicked a water cooler, broke his foot, and the rest is history. He's no longer with the Mariners. So I'm not going to say it's been totally answered, but I agree with you. So far, so good. Orlando Arcia, he at least looks like, at the very least, he is going to be, at least a top 15 shortstop like he was last year. That's huge. And Marcell Ozuna, I think, is the biggest of them all because that guy has been the hottest hitter since May of last year, and it just hasn't stopped. And you keep waiting for him to go into a little funk because he's always been kind of a streaky hitter. But damn, I mean, he's playing confidently. He's hitting the ball way out of the park. He just seems like everything has kind of come together for him in his career, and he's put a lot of the bad stuff aside, and he's in a place where he's loved, beloved, not just by the players anymore, even by the fan base. I've never seen such a drastic change. So I think that's the most exciting part for me.
Yeah.
I will go to the takeaways on the negative side because, we can't all just be positive here. And I think what we saw from the bullpen in the Mets is something to worry about. And I'm not talking about everybody, but finding the guys that are going to be your top 5, 6 guys. Who are those guys going to be? Because you got AJ Minter. You got Raisel Iglesias. I know they've had some hiccups earlier in the season, but you got those guys. And you think Pierce Johnson's going to be that guy? I would put him up there. You think Joe Jimenez can be that guy? But they're not as sure of things. And after that, some questions really start to arise. Aaron Bummer has looked pretty bad at times. Dylan Lee, Tyler Matzik. What really are they moving forward? So I think my biggest thing is, we expected this bullpen to be really good because you're excited to hear the name Tyler Matzik. But if Tyler Matzik's dropped down to 93, 94, and he's starting to get hit to the tune of a 5 ERA, Tyler Matzik is basically a AAA pitcher. And that sucks because I love Tyler Matzik. But, you got to start thinking about these other spots and who are going to be your go-to guys. And it doesn't look early on that Tyler Matzik can be that guy. I'm not sure Dylan Lee can be that guy. So you're starting to cross off names that can be that guy, and your bullpen starts to look thinner. I'm not going to panic yet. Again, 11 games. I mean, you're talking about Dylan Lee, who missed the last few months of last season. Tyler Matzik hasn't pitched in 18 months. But there is a little bit of concern there, especially when you add it in the mix that you no longer have Spencer Strider. So you hope that your bullpen can carry some more weight.
Yeah, and the runway is going to be gifted to those guys because, one, the Braves organization loves Matzik and Lee, but also there's a couple of guys in AAA who are biding time, waiting for their chance to kind of get their call up, and Ray Kerr and Ken Giles. So it's not like they're completely safe. Like if they don't perform over the next month or so, I would say maybe even less, there's certainly going to be a demotion in their future. And sticking on the negative side, particularly against the Mets, the defense was absolutely horrendous. I mean, uncharacteristically bad. Like the occasional error is going to happen. Some tough plays are just tough plays. It's that simple. But there were so many against the Mets, and it wasn't just one player. Michael Harris, Orlando Arcia, Ozzy Albies' defense has dropped off a cliff. I have no idea what's happened there. Austin Riley had a little blip. Like the defense, and that's one thing that you can absolutely, like I said, outside of the tough plays, you can absolutely control, and it's got to be better than that, and it will be better, but that was a really, really bad showing.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like the bad news bears.
Yeah.
I mean, it really did. For a team as good as the Braves and a team that's been so good defensively, you know, you have guys, Michael Harris, you think can win a Gold Glove. Austin Riley, you think can win a Gold Glove. Orlando Arcia is a really good defensive player. You used to think Ozzy Albies could win a Gold Glove, but we're well past those days. Jared Kelenic, I will say, is playing great out there in defense and left field. Might be one of the best defensive left fielders. Yes. And that entire unit, if Ronald plays a little bit better defense, is one of the best defensive outfielders. So that should be better. But I agree. I mean, especially when you point to Ozzy Albies. I mean, that guy has. And then you look at the loss of Ron Washington, and you start to see, you know, does a Ron Washington coach team ever have that bad of a performance over an entire series? I can't remember one being that bad. And I'm not going to say things can't get better, but there definitely needs to be a focus on it. I know Ron would have his guys out there at 8 a.m. the next day whooping their butts if they perform like that in a series. So I hope whoever's in charge of that now is doing something similar, because sometimes you need a reminder. Hey, maybe Ron's not here, but hey, you know, we got to take care of business. We got to be better. But I think the Braves will take care of that. One thing I want to touch on, and I'll throw it to you to talk about, but Ronaldo Lopez has impressed me so much, and he's one of the biggest reasons why I'm not freaking out about Spencer Strider. Now, I don't know if he can do the entire season, but at this point, with all the pitcher injuries and all, like I almost think that, you know, limiting these guys' innings is almost not doing them any good, because you see a guy limit, like Yuri Perez, they limited his innings. Oh, he can't throw more than 150. Then he gets Tommy John surgery. And it's just like, well, you limited his innings. He doesn't pitch for months. You know, then he goes into the offseason, doesn't pitch, and then he comes back and he's throwing 98. Like, is there a correlation there? I'm not sure, but I can tell you whatever teams are doing to limit these, you know, young pitchers' injuries and whatever hasn't been working. So I'm almost like, you know, screw it. Like, especially since you need him. But I'm just so impressed with who he's become as a pitcher. He's not throwing as hard, but he's mixing his pitches. He's sequencing them. He's still fastball slider, but he's mixing in that curveball third time through the order. It seems like he's learned a lot. And he said that after his last start, that if he was, you know, if he had that 3 years of experience and knowledge and was still a starting pitcher that he learned as a reliever, he would have been a much different pitcher back then. Now he has that. And let's see if this can continue.
Yeah, the Braves are, you know, more so than ever, obviously dependent on him and hopeful that he can become solidified in that starting rotation. And, you know, the early returns are very encouraging. Now, granted, the competition should be, you know, the circumstances matter. White Sox Mets aren't exactly the most potent lineups, but you can't argue with the results either. Like, the guy has been the best pitcher for the Braves this year, bar none. So, encouraging at the very least. And if you want to be crazy, you can be like, I love this guy. He's going to be a staple of this rotation. And I think, you know, in terms of pitching injuries, I just want to bring this up, and it's kind of a joke a little bit, is how has Charlie Morton, 40-year-old Charlie Morton, still thrown at 97 miles per hour, workhorse last year, workhorse the year before? How is that guy holding up? And all these young, for all intents and purposes, Spencer Strider is an extremely healthy young man, and all these other guys. How does that happen? That's so weird.
I don't know if it's the breaking balls that they're throwing at an early age or whatever it is. I mean, I have a torn UCL from back when I played high school baseball that I never got repaired, and it's still torn. And that's because I was throwing curveballs when I was like 12 years old. Yeah. So I don't know if it's something like that. It also could just be luck. Like, I mean, so I think sometimes injuries just boil down to luck. But I'll be really interested to see how they handle Ronaldo Lopez, because God forbid they can't afford another injury to this rotation. And if he keeps pitching well, what's the plan going to be? Because he hasn't thrown 180 innings since 2019. And he hasn't thrown over like 100 innings since 2019. So how are they going to use him? How are they going to, you know, maybe they give him some time off in the middle of the season. What is the plan? Because I don't know if time off is the answer either.
Yeah, it's tough, because even if you were to just, you know, give him the Phantom IL stint, like, what is the right timing? In the middle of the year, you know, 3/4 of the way through the year? Because then you're going to have to be like, all right, now ramp back up and get back into a group. I mean, I don't know anything about anything. I'm an idiot, but I would just ride it, just ride it. Yeah. I don't know. That's a tough question.
It's a difficult question that they're going to have to answer. Thankfully, we do not have to answer it, but we will see what the answer is in the coming weeks. Coming up after the break, Falcons made a couple of defensive signings. Finally, we are going to discuss them. They're not that impressive.